Georgia's governor's race is coming down to the wire. A poll released today shows that Georgia's Secretary of State and Republican candidate Brian Kemp leads Democratic candidate Stacey Abrams by just 1 point, and that's with a margin of error of 2.8. But the race has a new controversy. This Tuesday, the Associated Press reported that Kemp's office has held up 53,000 voter applications. That's approximately 70% of those voter applications are from black voters. Well, Tuesday was also Georgia's deadline for eligibility in November's general election, but voting rights activists are fighting back. Giovanna Derpick is a political reporter for our Atlanta affiliate, WGCL. She joins us now. So give us a sense here. What law does Kemp break by, and what is he justifying here? What's happening?
Okay, so the controversy here is magnified because you have this race which is neck and neck, and it's been like this even with a poll from early in September. But what you have people claiming is civil rights groups saying that 53,000 voter registrations were held up. Secretary of State Kemp's office says no, they were not held up. They were actually processed, and what is happening with those is they're saying that when the Social Security Administration and the driver's license offices checked name, date of birth, social security number, or driver's license, it kicked it back saying something wasn't right, something didn't match. Now, Kemp's office does acknowledge that 70% of the people who are in this pile were indeed African American.
So WGCL has reported that the NAACP will pursue a lawsuit against Brian Kemp. Do you think that'll pressure him into sort of easing these voting restrictions?
He says that he is going by the law. He is following it. Voting rights advocates say this is an exact match system which purposely seems to try to disenfranchise voting among minority groups. And so I asked, well, what kinds of things are being considered when these people are being placed into this pending status? I asked, would a hyphen, for example, if you have your maiden name and then you get married and the hyphen's missing, would that affect it? Kemp's office wouldn't answer that because of pending litigation. But as far as he's concerned, he doesn't back down on this. He says he's going by the law, he's preventing voter fraud, and they have to check the system. They do list maintenance as required by law, and this is how they make sure that everything is legitimate.
So does Kemp have a history with allegations of voter suppression?
This takes more important meaning because recently in August you had a situation in Randolph County where there was a consultant who was hired who was recommending to the Board of Registration and Elections for them to get rid of 75% majority African American precincts. This made national headlines. A lot of outlets covered this. Kemp had said that he didn't tell this consultant to close those precincts. In the end, the consultant was fired from the job, and the Board of Elections and Registrations in Randolph County decided not to close those precincts. The reason why that's important is because if they would have closed those majority African American precincts, many African Americans would have had to walk, if they didn't have transportation, walk 10 miles just to be able to vote.
So do you think, Giovanna, that Stacey Abrams is going to keep highlighting this issue over the next month? Does it give her traction?
Stacey Abrams and her campaign, they just talk about how they want everybody who is eligible to vote to be able to vote. They point to the fact that we should be making it easier for people to register to vote, making it easier for people to actually vote.
So, when you're looking at the numbers in this race, there was a poll released today by the Atlantic Journal-Constitution. It has them neck and neck at this point, but that was before the data was collected, before the story, that the data for the poll was collected before the story broke. So is this an issue that voters really care about? Do you think they will respond to this?
Depends who you ask. So, for example, today you have civil rights groups who are going to be holding a protest this afternoon between 3 and 4 right over at the state capitol, and they're going to be insisting that Kemp resign. They are pointing to this as one of the reasons. They're also pointing to the fact that Kemp is going to be supervising the election he's going to be running in, and they see that as a conflict of interest. His side says, no, that's not a conflict of interest. You have precedent on both sides, Democrats and Republicans who have been in office and have supervised their own elections, and nothing happened there. So there is a protest today. They're making an issue out of it. Will it actually affect voters? Let me give you an example. In a recent poll, the thing that was considered the #1 priority for voters that they were going to vote on the economy and jobs. So it goes back to what we've always said, the economy and jobs. Does this raise a lot of interest? Yes. The more coverage it gets nationally, et cetera, that may create more pressure for him to open up the system. He argues that he's actually helped increase voter registration, and Georgia has one of the best records of voter registration processing. But is that due to his activities, or is it from groups like the New Georgia Project, which Stacey Abrams actually founded to encourage and make it easier for citizens to vote? That remains to be seen.
Giovanna, I think you're watching one of the most fascinating gubernatorial races that we're watching in November. I'm looking forward to your reporting. Thank you so much, Giovanna Derpick, for joining us.
You're welcome.